The fall 2018 semester introductory lecture, and I want to walk you through class a little bit. This is a hybrid. Did you know that? You signed up for a hybrid class, which means there is a substantial amount of work that you're going to be doing on your own and online. So if you have never taken a hybrid class before, this is going to be a new experience for you, and if online learning is not for you, which is just fine, it's not for everyone, you may want to rethink and find another section. Let me go through the class. I'll go over it a little more in class again on Tuesday, but again, you are responsible for a substantial amount of work on your own outside of our physical classroom. So here's information. Again, we only meet on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. We meet for labs. So you're going to be doing the lecture material and a lot of other work on your own. This is our course homepage. You can click here to learn about me, office hours, things like that. Whoops, I need to update that, sorry. I will come back and update that. I'm just getting the course going. You can click here, read about the course. You can click anywhere, guys. I have it set up. You can't break anything in the class. As much as you may want to some days, you can't. So click around, look at things. I'm going to go through the syllabus here in just a second. There's a start here as well. Lab reminders. Click, look at things. Check out your classroom. Now, before we even get started, a couple of things. You're going to have a reminder to do over here. Now, the experiments we do in class. So we meet, for instance, on Tuesday at 6 p.m. and before you leave at 8:40, your experiment number 1 is due. So you need to have your lab book in hand by Tuesday because you're going to be turning it in a lab. If you don't have your lab book, when you turn in the lab, it's going to be late. So your labs are always due on the day we do the lab. So there'll be reminders here. I've set up the course calendar for the whole semester, so you can also look at that. You can see already you've got a couple of things due Sunday the 26th. You're welcome to work ahead if you'd like to, but use the calendar. It is a great resource. Now let me go back to the class. One other thing to talk about, and that is that we call Eagle is actually named Canvas. The program itself is Canvas, and it's called a learning management system. And Canvas has an app, and I recommend every one of you download the Canvas app to your smart device. And the reason I say that is because you'll get notifications, as long as you've got them turned on. You'll get notifications about the class. For instance, when I post a grade, or if you've got something due. And you can even review and go through much of our class that we're looking at. You might be looking at on a computer browser right now. You can look at and go through on your smart device. So please, please do get that. You are responsible for all information that I post in announcements, for instance, or emails that I might send out. And again, if you're using your smart device and you have the notifications turned on, you will get the notification. All right, so let's look at our classes. My class might look a little different than some of your others. I try to minimize how much stuff is over here on the left, just because it gets kind of bulky. Again, announcements. I don't have anything posted yet. Whoops, sorry, this will be updated here in a little bit. But announcements are posted there. Modules is where you're going to spend most of the time in this class. So let me open it up. It's broken down by week, and you'll see there's a lot of stuff this first week, as there always is, the first week of class. Okay, so student info, this is an optional information sheet just for you to share a little bit about yourself with me, just with me. Pretest, we're going to talk about that in just a minute when I go through the syllabus. And then some of you may feel you need a refresher on math. There's a packet here with some worked problems. This is optional. I do very much stress the importance of a solid foundation of algebra for this class. If you find yourself struggling with the math, you're not going to grasp and get the chemistry that we're trying to learn. So if you are not really solid in math, I would do several things. Make an appointment with our tutor center. Drop in the math lab down on the bottom floor of the JCSM. Ask me questions, work online, but please, please work on those math skills, because I find far too often students get hung up with the math and then they don't get the chemistry because they don't know how to work the math out. Okay, then you've got some lecture material here. Again, this is an online, or excuse me, a hybrid class where the lecture portion of the class, which normally would be face-to-face, is now online. So a lot of things you need to be watching and reviewing online, some handouts, things like that. And then our homework for Chapter 1. our homework will take us to what's called Sapling, and I have got it up over here. Our class for Sapling, yours going to look a little different because I, of course, am in instructor mode, but you do your homework and exams in Sapling. I have both set up in terms of the calendar, both in Sapling and on Eagle, but just an FYI, you're going to do the homework in Sapling and exams. They will be immediately graded in Sapling. However, I have to manually bring the grades over into Eagle. So typically I do that on Monday or Tuesday after their due date. Everything in this class, in terms of the online content, it's always due on Sunday night, so just before midnight, so I don't stay up at midnight waiting to transfer grades. Everything will lock at midnight, but come Monday or Tuesday, I'll manually transfer those grades over. So don't panic when you don't see them immediately in Eagle. Okay, and again, then our class broken down for each week. You can go through. It's open now. You're welcome to work ahead if you want to work ahead. All that good stuff. Okay. Some of it I have hidden still, so you can't work quite all the way through the class. Grades, obviously, is our grade book. People, if you want to send a message to me or to your classmates, this is one way to do it. Pages is where I have different wiki pages that I've made some information. Our home page is actually a wiki page. And then again, just some things, click around, look and read, you can't break it. I can't emphasize that enough. And then everyone has access to Office 365, which has Microsoft Word, Excel. You won't need any of that for this class, but just in case you do for another one. And then Google Drive, everyone has access to Google Drive to store documents. Again, you won't need that for this class, but it's useful in there for other classes. All right, let's kind of briefly go through the syllabus. I'm going to go through it more in detail. So I'm just doing a preview right now. You can download it. If you click on it, you can download it. So this is our class. You can see when my office hours are, all that good stuff. I do have some online office hours, and I can show you about that in a little bit. My mailbox, my office phone, my cell phone, but again, I ask emergencies only, and during reasonable hours. So if you wait until the last minute to do homework, and it's 10:30 on a Sunday night, and you're having issues, you're going to have to reach out to tech support for Sapling, not with me. So that's another reason not to procrastinate when you're working through your work. Okay, again, we meet face-to-face on Tuesdays from 6 to 8:40 p.m. in JCSM 2124, which is a lab. There's a textbook required for this class, Sapling Learning, again, which is where our homework and things are found, homework and exams. A lab textbook, which again, you need Tuesday. We are doing our first lab on Tuesday. You need safety goggles, not glasses, and they have to be approved ones, which means if you bought them at Lowe's or Home Depot, they're not approved. Those are splash resistant. They're not chemical resistant. If you've got a pair and you want to bring them this week, bring them if you already have them. Don't buy new ones if you're unsure. Don't go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy a pair. But if you already have a pair and you want to know if they're acceptable, bring them in. I'll be glad to look at them. We don't actually need our goggles for like 2 weeks. Otherwise, you need to get some from the bookstore. Anything you purchase in the bookstore, as far as safety goggles, are definitely approved. You're going to need a scientific calculator. A couple of recommended things. A study guide solutions manual is available. It's not required. And then there's an app called ChemPro that I really like as well. You guys can read through this. Prerequisites, if you're in this class, it is expected that you have had chemistry within the last 5 years and earned a C or higher, and that you will see that expectation carried through most especially in the first 5 chapters. This course is for allied health majors or students, so most of you listening to this are probably planning to go into nursing. That's what I find most often. If you are going to be a science major, let's say you want to do pre-med or engineering or one of the sciences, you need to be in general chemistry. This is the wrong class. So please let me know. I hate for students to get in the wrong class and not realize it until they're halfway through, that they are not equivalent. Our Gen Chem and this course, we call it GOB, they are not equivalent. Pretest. So that was back in modules, the week 1. You have to take a pretest. And again, everyone should have a math and chemistry background to be taking this class. And I set this pretest up to kind of really give you an idea as to whether you are ready. And depending on what you get on this, I have some recommendations. If you don't earn 3 out of 5, I recommend you schedule a meeting with me, you sign up for a tutor, or even consider dropping the class and retaking one of the prior prerequisites. Again, the pretest isn't the end-all be-all. If you fail it, that doesn't mean that you are going to fail the class. But I have found over the last 5 years that I've been doing the pretest that your pretest score correlates very significantly to your final grade. So again, it just tells you, talks to you, shows you if you're really ready and prepared with the foundation that you should have coming into this class. And you've got till Sunday, as I said a little bit ago, Sunday just before midnight, that is our cutoff for each week. Calculators, you can use whatever you want in this class all the way up until the last week or so. And that is because when we take the lab practical and when you do the final exam, you have to have a scientific notation, scientific calculator. You can't use any smart device, you can't share a calculator, or you get a 0. So use whatever you'd like all semester. My recommendation is that whatever calculator you plan to use at the end of the semester on those exams, that you start using now, so that you're very familiar with the calculator and you're not trying to learn how to use it at the last minute. Exams again are on sapling. You have 3 hours to complete each exam. No late exams are accepted. Please don't ask for an exception. However, I do drop the lowest of your 4 exam grades. So if you've procrastinated or if something comes up at the last minute, that will be your drop score. If you take all 4 exams, your lowest grade is still dropped. So again, please don't procrastinate. That's part of being an online student. You have to learn how to pace yourself and schedule things. Again, lectures I just talked about. This is the hybrid class, so the lecture portion is online. I typically do a very brief summary of the chapter, but this is not going to be what you're going to learn everything in. It's a maybe 30 minutes. I'll talk about the chapter. I more summarize it than anything. To get the most benefit from that summary, I recommend you read and work in advance and then come in for the summary, ask questions if you have them, all that. Lab and lab practical, we're going to talk about this when we meet on Tuesday for the first time. So I'll save a lot of this, just kind of important things before Tuesday. Again, you've got to have your lab book. We're doing a lab, and the labs are due torn out from the worksheets from the lab book. No copies, no write it on a piece of paper. You've got to have the lab book. You've got to have it Tuesday. And you've got to be on time. You've got to be on time to class. All right, homework. So in that sapling that I showed you a minute ago, each chapter has a homework that's assigned. We're doing 10 chapters, so we have 10 homeworks. No late homework is accepted either, but I do again drop your lowest 1 score. This is the link to our class in sapling, and you're required to be in there. Whoops, I got a little typo there. But by August 26th, so again Sunday, you need to log in. You don't have anything necessarily due. Maybe you do actually, now that I say that. I should look at the calendar myself. Check out your calendar, but you need to be in sapling. Actually, I do think you guys have chapter 1 due by Sunday, so you're going to have to be in there. If you have any issues at any time, there's your tech support email. They ask that you email them. Late work policy, labs are accepted, but a 1 point per calendar day penalty. So again, have your lab book in hand Tuesday because it's due before you leave. Late homework exams are not accepted, and then the very last day that you can turn in a late work, which would just be your labs, is Tuesday, December 3rd. That's our last regular class time. Our final exam is scheduled by the college. We'll talk a lot more about it when we get closer. For now, just kind of pencil this in your calendar. This is when the college has scheduled our final. Extra credit, because I drop all of those things, essentially you're getting a lot of extra credit in that regard. I drop 120 points of your lowest points. So that's actually a huge boost. So I don't offer extra credit for that reason. And I say, please don't ask. We use Eagle for this course. You need to be online and have access to that on a regular basis. Attendance isn't mandatory. Well, it kind of is. You've got to be there to do labs, but I don't actually just take an attendance record for class. You don't get points for just showing up. But just so FYI, the college does periodically ask me if you have been attending, and so I have to record that. Grade disputes. I am human. I make mistakes sometimes. If you have a question about a grade that you've received on anything, please don't hesitate to ask me. I just ask that you do that, limit that to within the first week after the work has been returned, simply because it's fresh on my mind at that point. Here's the point breakdown for our class. That pre-test you're going to take the first week is worth 5 points. Each exam is worth 100. We take 4, but I count your highest 3. We have one final exam worth 120 points. Labs, we do 13, but I count your highest 12 scores. Online homework, we do 10. I count your top 9 scores. And then we have the lab practical that's worth 100 points. Grading scale is a standard 90, 80, 70, 60. Some important dates by the college. You can drop for a full tuition refund by this Tuesday, August 28th. And then you can drop but have a W on your transcript, no refund, through November 9th. This is probably my favorite page. I actually print this and put it in my office. So if you have an office, do that. Or if you're like me also and you use your calendar on your phone, maybe put all these dates in there. So these are our dates. We meet on Tuesdays for lab. These are the labs we'll be doing. These are the chapters you should be working on outside of class. And then these are the due dates for those chapter homeworks and the exams. All right. Again, we're going to talk about lab in detail on Tuesday, so I'll save that and try and keep this a little shorter of a video. Course objectives, you guys can read through what our objectives are for this class. This is the course topic outline, meaning within each week and chapter what we're going to be covering. Oops, and I just realized, guys, sorry, this was from the summer section. In summer, we only go 8 weeks, so you have to multiply everything by 2 here. So our last section, this is what we'll be covering. Tutors, if you get behind, if you are struggling, if you need additional help, we have awesome, awesome tutors. Students benefits so much. I just can't even say from tutor centers, from our tutoring center. It is free too, free. We have tutors in the Success Center, and we also will have them in the JCSM on the first floor in the Life Science Resource Room. I don't know what that schedule will be. It varies every semester based on student tutors, but you can always call the Success Center schedules the tutors all across campus. So I always say call them and find out when students will be where. And maybe before class you come in a little early and you work with a tutor if possible. Again, you need to have computer access. This is the standard college policy on plagiarism. Disability. If you have a documented disability and you need accommodations, you have to ask in advance. Any accommodations are not retroactive, meaning you can't take an exam and then come back and tell me, oh, I was supposed to have special accommodations, you didn't give them to me. Okay, not the way it works. If you have a documented disability or you have a disability that's not been documented, you need to work with our wonderful folks at the Disability Support Services Center. They will work on your paperwork, they will let me know, but I always ask that you let me know as well. I have many students that have documented disabilities who, based on the nature of our class, meaning that almost all of it is online, they don't need the accommodations. But you have to ask me the beginning of the semester, like the first week is preferred if you're going to need some kind of special accommodations. Learning resources, again, tutors, your rights and responsibilities, withdrawal policy. If you are not actively attending or participating in class, as I deem that to be, typically that's 2 weeks. If you're gone 2 weeks or not doing the assignments on a regular basis, I will withdraw you. If you from there want to be added back to the class, you would have to come plead your case to me as to why you should be added back in. So just note that if you are not actively attending or participating, maybe you're coming but you're not turning work in or doing the online work, I can drop you from the class, and I will. So please be mindful of that. And then finally, this is ideal case scenario. Once in a while things happen, and I may have to modify the syllabus, the schedule that is, and I would announce it in class and on Eagle. And then finally, this last page, this just says you have gone through the syllabus, you have reviewed it, asked any questions if you have them. This is my missing lab policy. We're going to talk about this in lab on Tuesday, but real briefly, chemistry is a hands-on science. Doing labs is critical. Now, the labs aren't worth the majority of your points, but they're really, really important. And so you need to be here and you need to be doing lab. So my policy here, if you miss 3 labs, and that includes the one I drop, so if you end up missing or have 3 zeros in the grade book, your final letter grade will be lowered by 1. Even if you have an A, it's going to go down to a B because you missed a quarter of the labs we do. If you miss 4 labs, your final letter grade would be lowered by 2, and if you miss 5 or more labs, which is just about half of the labs we do, you will fail the course. And again, this number includes the one that's dropped. So when I look at the grade book, if I see 3 zeros, sure, the 1 0 would come off of your points, but if I see 3 zeros, 3 missed absences, you're going to have, the effects on your final grade. You understand you have to have your sapling set up by Sunday, August 26th, and in fact, it says late penalties, but late work's not accepted at all, so that's what the late penalty is. You understand what's expected of you as far as the work done in the class. You understand this is best case scenario, and you understand the lab rules and requirements, and you have to be on time. If you're listening to this video still at the end, 20 minutes later, print this last page of the syllabus and walk in with it ready to hand to me on Tuesday. I would appreciate it. And you guys, that's pretty much it. I tried to keep it relatively short. Again, I won't bore you with going through all this again on Tuesday, so you'll be a leg up on your classmates if you've watched this. I'm really glad to have you. I know we're going to have a great semester, and I will see you guys on Tuesday.